Are you ready for some football? Hello my friends and welcome to The Simple Sober Life and happy Super Bowl Sunday. I am Joshua and I help others make simple changes to create a life of awesome. Welcome my friends, again it is Super Bowl Sunday and that means absolutely nothing to me. I've never been a big football fan. I don't even know who's playing, sadly to say. Whenever I would watch the Super Bowl in the past, it would always be for the commercials. And I heard that they're killing Mr. Peanut, which kind of depresses me a little, so ixnay on the Super Bowl this year. But I have a fantastic recipe for you if you want to do low carb during the Super Bowl. We're going to be making low carb meatballs. Now I'm prepping this for my lunch for the rest of the week, but these could be definitely used for one of your Super Bowl foods. And the recipe is super easy. Basically, you mix a bunch of stuff together, roll it into a ball, and throw it in the oven. Couldn't be better. That's my kind of low carb recipe. So let's check it out, let's see what we need, and we'll get the process going. For this super easy low carb meatball recipe, all we're gonna need is a mixture of ground pork and ground beef. I'm using a 2-to-1 ratio as to where it's 2 parts beef, 1 part pork. We're gonna need some Parmesan cheese. It calls for 1.5 cups and I have just under 1 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. So I'm gonna sub out with some shredded Parmesan that we had in the refrigerator. Using some Italian seasoning. This is some mushroom Alfredo sauce. As a side, I'm actually going to be making roasted spaghetti squash, and I'm gonna toss that into this just as a side. It's only got 2 grams of carbs, so we're good with that. We're gonna need some garlic powder because it's not in the Italian seasoning. It has marjoram, I don't even know what that is, thyme, rosemary, savory sage, oregano, and basil. And the recipe only calls for thyme, oregano, and basil, so we'll have some extra added flavor in there. Pepper, salt, and 4 beaten eggs. All right, make sure to wash your hands because we're gonna be getting dirty. We're gonna throw in the beaten eggs. We're gonna throw in the Parmesan. We're gonna throw in the Italian seasoning. That might be a bit much, but I guess we'll find out. We're gonna throw in the garlic powder. We're gonna throw in the salt. And we're gonna throw in the pepper. And then we're just gonna mix it all up. Once that's good and mixed, we're just gonna take handfuls, roll it up, and then put it on a cookie sheet. We're gonna pop them in the oven at 350 for between 20 minutes and a half hour, just depending on your oven. I'm gonna set mine to 25 minutes, that way it's right in the middle. There we go. I went ahead and roasted the spaghetti squash ahead of time. I did it at 350 for an hour. I just brushed the top of it with olive oil and then sprinkled sea salt and black pepper over it. Now, it should come out like spaghetti strands, which it seems like it's doing pretty well. This is a different way than I've done spaghetti squash in the past. Normally what I've done is I've taken like a casserole dish, added about a ½ inch of water, and just kind of steamed them. But every time I did that, it just kind of fell apart and became clumpy. I was probably cooking it too long, but this is coming out pretty good, pretty well. It's going into the strings like it should. It's not all mushing together. So I think I like this way better. So we'll just do that. We'll get all that good stuff out of that core there. All right, got a good amount for the week. Now we're just gonna add our Alfredo sauce. And I found that any of these white sauces are all pretty low in carbs. It's when you get to the tomato sauces that they start adding the sugars and everything that boost up the carb amount. Can't really smell much in there. And we'll take it easy because I don't want it sopping wet. So we'll add about half of a jar there, and we'll see where that takes us. We'll just kind of mix it in. I just want a little bit of flavor, and that looks like that's more than enough. And of course you can add extra mushrooms, you can add, you know, any onions, anything that you want to this. It's just a side dish to go with the meatballs. That's looking pretty darn good. There we go. Now we just have to wait for the meatballs and our meal will be complete. Now those meatballs were super quick and super easy. They're still going in the oven, so I wanted to just pop in and show you what I'm going to use for a snack this week. Now normally I'll take nuts, or I'll take like a little roll up in a low carb wrap with some meats and cheese, or I'll take apples. I've also taken beef jerky and things like that so that I can snack throughout the day because my carb intake is low and so I'm usually pretty hungry. Well, my parents gave me a Walmart gift card, and so one of the things that I wanted to invest in was a good blender. And I started off with one of those cheap $20 ones, and it worked fine, but it just wasn't the blender I was looking for. And normally I would go with a Ninja blender. I love Ninja, their products are great. But this time, I was a little swayed to purchase something else. And I got the Instapot blender. Now I'll show you a close-up in a second, but this thing is awesome. It can actually make and heat soup. Okay? Now that is probably the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. But one of the snacks that I like to make periodically, and I was actually doing it for breakfast for a while, is to make protein shakes. Now, the thing I like about protein shakes is that you can literally put just about anything you want in there. You know, I'll put frozen fruit, I'll put avocado, I'll put spinach, I'll put cucumber, I'll put broccoli, I'll put almond milk and protein powder and fiber powder, and you know, I'll just load that thing up so it's rich and full of nutrients. It's quick and easy, and you know, it kind of digests really quickly because I mean, you're drinking everything. Now I looked in the refrigerator and I don't have any spinach, I don't have any broccoli, I don't have any ripe avocados, so they're all they feel like baseballs right now. I don't have any fiber, so I'm going to be making a very basic fruit protein smoothie. And for that, I'm gonna be using just a triple berry mixed blend. It's the Great Value brand from Walmart. I'm using some almond milk. When you do almond milk, make sure to get the unsweetened, unflavored kind. That'll take down the calories by half. And then I'm just using a whey protein from, I think I got it from Walmart. But it's got 60 grams of protein per scoop, I think. Is it per scoop? Nope, per 2 scoops. But this thing's big, so I'm gonna need 2 scoops anyway. And it only has 8 grams of net carb, or 8 grams of carbs, and then it's got 1 fiber. And remember, we reduced the carbs by the fiber. That's our net carbs. So it's got 7 grams of net carbs. Be careful when you're buying the protein powder. Some of these have added sugars in them, and they can really stack up on the or on the carb intake. So be careful. So this thing is awesome. I love this Instapot. I'm gonna bring you in closer. So this thing has such a sleek design to it, and it is enormous. You can tell by that base, there is a full engine in there. I'm surprised I don't have to put diesel fuel in it. But the reason I chose this one, really, over the Ninja was because it has a lot of buttons. And I love pressing buttons. I love just hitting different buttons and see what they do. The Ninja I was looking at had like 3 buttons, which makes it super simple, and I'm sure it does everything. But this one has a smoothie button, has a puree button, a crushed ice button, frozen desserts. You can actually clean this thing with a special button. Pause, cancel, soup. You make and heat soup in this thing. A nut and oat milk. I think you can actually make your own milks in here. So it's got rice milk and nut and oat milk, soy milk. Craziness. I think this thing would even like babysit a kid if you wanted it to. All right, so we'll just open her up. And this is like vacuum sealed, this seal. It's got this cool double lip on it, so nothing is getting out of here. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my berries. Now, normally I don't add that much fruit, but because I'm not adding any of my spinach or any of the other stuff, then I wanted to fill it up. I'm gonna add my almond milk. And it depends on how thick or thin you want it, is how much milk you want to add. And I'm gonna throw in the protein powder. We'll close her up. It's Smoothie. And just like that, the smoothies are done. That's really refreshing. That'd be really good for summer. Just having those berries in that milk, a little bit of protein powder. It's really good. Now the meatballs are almost done, so let's go check on those. All right, that oven is calling my name. So after about 25 minutes, they should be done. Ooh, and that cheese all squirted out. That might be good. There they are. So you can see that the shredded Parmesan that I used kind of came out of the meatball, and it actually formed a little kind of where the cheese came out, kind of a little, I wouldn't say burnt, but a crisper edge on the very bottom. So that could be really good. It might not be, but there's only one way to find out. So if this is truly gonna be a Super Bowl low carb snack, then it's got to taste great. Oh. When you hit that place where the cheese puddled on the bottom and it kind of crisped up, kabam! Very, very good. The seasoning was right on point. I don't think I added too much, but I like mine a little bit more than most. I might cook it a little less next time. It did seem to dry out a bit, but other than that, the flavor is awesome. If you'd like, you might even think about tossing them in some, like, I don't know, some sort of gravy mixture, some sort of low-carb gravy mixture if you have one. But I would definitely recommend these. I can't wait for lunch this week so I can have my meatballs and my spaghetti squash. My friends, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure to comment down below, especially if you have any low-carb recipes that you'd like me to give a try. And also give this video a big old thumbs up and subscribe. Hit that bell when you subscribe so you get notified each time I create a video. My friends, have a wonderful Super Bowl, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.